So good morning folks and welcome back. We're just going to give you a wee pre-harvest roundup of how crops are looking, where we are. It's the 18th of July. We're in the middle of a UK heat wave. Now for us here in Northern Ireland, temperatures are only 21-22 degrees. They're talking about them getting higher today. I thought I'd just stop at the top of the hill here, give you a view of our surrounding area. Ballydugan Mill down there in the corner. We have the Untitled Cattle Market, the Moor Mountains in the background. Our farm's just out over that hill there. The Patrick horse race course there, and then just behind it the Down Cathedral. Get the horse race course there in the foreground and the cathedral in the background. And then that in the distance looks out over towards Belfast. So we're in our winter barley here, and as you can see behind me, we have a few oats coming up through from the oat crop 2 years ago. It was a difficult one to harvest. It went flat. There was secondary growth, so there's a lot of green greens went out over and things like that. And we're just struggling to get them under control completely. But we'll probably put this field into potatoes now next year, and that'll clear that all up and give us a nice fresh start for wheat again. This is our winter oat trial plots that we have for whites, to try and help us identify the differences in the varieties. So we have Mascani here on the left, which is our sort of farm standard. We have the rest of the fields in Mascani. We have Isabelle here as well, and then we have Husky. We'll show you in a wee second. Isabelle is probably the least well on of all three. Something similar to Mascani, normally would be before Mascani, but it's taken quite a bit of rust, as you can see there, even on the stems. The leaves have just sort of completely disappeared. Now in many ways, in Isabelle's defence, I think that the Husky, it's the dirtiest variety, which we'll show you now, and it has let the disease in and then it has spread across to Isabelle, even though this trial has three fungicides. And our Mascani only ever gets 2. So it just shows that Husky's quite a dirty variety. And then we did have a bit of heat stress towards the middle of June for a couple of days. It was just such a switch from what we had, from cold to so warm, and then we got moisture afterwards, and I think it was perfect disease conditions. Even though the fungicides were there, it just couldn't quite cope this year. So this now is a comparison. We have Mascani on the left and we have our Husky on the right. You can see the Husky is very ripe. It's really coming in. But again, it's absolutely littered with disease. Nice head of grain. A lot more grains per panicle per shoot than there is on the Mascani and the Isabelle. And let me put a wee shot up here to show you when I put them side by side. Very much so that the Husky would be at risk of falling over if there had been wet weather or heavy rain. And because the straw is so thick, it's one of those, once you've bent it, that's it. There's no coming back. But shows great promise for yield potential. It'd be very interesting to see if the Mascani can keep up with the Isabelle or the Husky in yield. Husky is more regularly sown in Northern Ireland as a spring oat, hence its speediness to become ready, become ripe for harvest. But based on the agronomy and stuff, it would need to do quite well to overtake the easier managed, easier harvested, shorter strawed Mascani. But whites will take these all through to harvest, and it'll be very interesting to see comparative terms there. You can see the difference between the Mascani on the left and the Husky on the right. So shade out a few pickles there. Just going to try and see they're still quite cheesy. So we are a good way off, from a good couple of weeks from harvest here with the oats. So yeah, if you enjoy the videos, please give it a wee thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel, helps keep it moving along and helps more people see it. I really appreciate you watching. We're now into the winter wheat. This is Graham, and you can see the spring wheat there in the background. These are two lovely fields of wheat actually. Really pleased with these, which is nice for a change because they're right on the crossroads where everybody looks at them. This is wheat after oats. We've managed to do a pretty good job at keeping the oats out. It's come up nice and clean. There's a really good head of green on it. I just bring it up to the camera there for you. And still plenty of greenness there. So this wheat will hold on for a good while yet. We're in another field of vegetative wheat here, but you can sort of see the gabbiness in it there. The actual heat stress is weakening the straw enough, I think, that it's starting to knock itself over. It's not, you can see a strip up in the field here. That's not a tramline or anything, that's where the green is starting to wilt over. But just look at those ears of wheat. One's a bit riper there, but lots of potential here, and I'm really pleased that it's still so green. An advocate of putting potash on now at sort of T3, T3.5, just at the end of flowering really. But I struggled to get the straight potash this year that I was looking for, so I went in really with what I had left in store of a few different bits and pieces. So we got potash, magnesium, bit of phosphate, there was a few bits of other trace elements in there. I can't remember them all offhand, and they all went on really here at the start of July, and I think it really has helped it hold on. We have wheat here with plenty of green leaf. It's not dying in and ripening off, and I really do think this last couple of years that late application is keeping it going strong, and it does help keep it healthier and cleaner, I do believe, as we come through to harvest, because quite often for us, start of August, it can be some of the wettest times of the year with heavy rain, and the head can start to suffer a wee bit because it's been so long since it's fungicide. Now this X-Tase has only had a T2, and then it had a tiny bit of fungicide added in with that spray at the start of July there, but it's holding on mighty well. This wasn't sowed till about the 16th, 18th of October, so a couple of weeks after the majority of our wheat. But because of the mineralisation in the soil after potatoes and the soil movement and not so much residue, the crop always gets up and away quickly after potatoes. And actually the neighbouring field, which is, we'll see in a second, which is our no-till field, this wheat's as far on, maybe if not further, than the no-till field because of that. So if you're putting stuff in a bit later after potatoes, that's sometimes how we can get away with it, even if the soil conditions aren't perfect. There's good carryover of nutrients, and you don't have that straw residue or anything like that what we're getting from min-till holding things back or eating up nitrogen. This is also the field that we have our nitrogen trial, our Clover Trial in. So we just show you here the clover. It got a bit of a hit with herbicide, but it's very much still there. Now, it suppressed the weeds underneath, but in the first year, keeping the weeds at bay at the same time as the clover was difficult enough. Had us led to the wheat in this part of the field been a bit thinner because of the competition. This clover was broadcast, and in theory, if I was doing it long term, I'd be looking to sow the clover in rows in between the wheat rows, maybe spaced a wee bit wider, to allow both to work in harmony together. The only other thing is the dry weather now has changed it quite a bit. You can just see here as we come up to this wee rocky height at the corner of the field in the entrance, though there's not much soil here, just how much further on, the camera's maybe not doing it justice, it's a good bit riper. You can see there along the edge of the tram line. So anybody on lighter land, if the heat persists, you will start to see wheat dying off in different areas. Let's go in here now and take a look at our no-till wheat. This was put in on the 2nd or 3rd of October with Earth Engineering's sort of prototype no-till drill, and it's worked really, really well. But we'll just walk up here and get a look. Just touch on our local wheat market for anybody that's maybe further afield, although I think you're all suffering exactly the same things. The market and the processors and millers and everything have done a great job at talking the price down lately. From the height, we're down 80-90 pounds a tonne from where it was earlier in the spring. It has rallied up the past 2 weeks. I think it's went up 10 or 15 pounds. So it's made it very difficult to know whether you need to be holding off or selling, because, you know, if somebody said to you this time last year they would give you that price for it, you would be taking it. But I think when things settle down, it will have to go back up again. Maybe not. If governments and speculators interact and frig the whole thing up, basically for the farmer who's going to get shafted for having high input prices and facing very high input prices this autumn, and maybe not getting anywhere near the return for his crop now at harvest as he needs. So it's a very hard one to know. We generally sell our winter barley at harvest, gives us our space then for our oats and wheat. Oats go in the springtime, contract to whites when we get storage payment then for keeping them. And wheat we generally just sell a couple of load at a time every month. Spread your risk, it all balances out somewhere at the end of the year, so that you're you never get the high price, you never get the low price, you maybe get a bit of everything. I hope that it tickles cash flow along, although stuff may have to be sold quicker this year if input costs or your seed and your fertilizer and all that there are going to be extortionate. It's going to take a lot more grain to cover those than it would in normal years, although the price is higher, so if it stays higher, it would help. So this is our no-till field. This is second wheat as well. We have put this field in our yen competition, the Yield Enhancement Network. This is probably not going to be our highest yielding field overall, but I want to put this in, one, because it's no-till, two, because it's the second wheat, and see what we can actually do. Now this was home safe seed, wasn't latitude treated or anything, and given the dry weather it's holding on really well. So what we're trying to see is, can our soil biology etc work for us through min-till and no-till and cover crop incorporation and potatoes in the rotation to reduce that burden of tickle, and see if soil health and plant health can overcome that without the dressings. So as you can see, it's looking really well. There's a wee patch there where the sprayer missed just of weeds, but the wheat's looking really well. A slightly shorter head maybe than some of the other fields, but there's plenty of them. They're still nice and green, so it's holding on really well. Our weed control in the end has been pretty good. There's a few wee bits around the headlands and stuff there where tram lines, where grass has been a wee bit more of a problem. It was given a pre-emergent herbicide, but that has just been a wee bit more trickier with the no-till, even though it was all round-upped before planting. So you just have to be very careful with the herbicides to keep on top of it with no-till. Another thing is all our wheat at the moment, it looks like we'll be chopping the straw. There's absolutely no demand for straw. We'll bale the winter barley straw and sort of take it from there. But given the cost of potash going forward at the moment, and the actual just cost of fuel for baling and shifting and moving the straw, it looks quite attractive to put that potash back into the ground, especially in our minimum till situation where we're trying to build that soil health, and that provides a bit of air and a bit of body into the soil as well. So lastly here, we're just coming down into our spring wheat and we'll get a wee look at it. We haven't had spring wheat for several years now, but we've put this variety in instead of spring barley, and it's a milling variety that hopefully we can use in the farm shop for the bread and scones and wheaten bread and stuff like that. Be interested to see if we can, depending on quality of harvest, but we'll give it a go. It looks thinnish head-wise. It's a thick enough crop of stuff, but when you look at the head and the size of the head, I'm not just sure where the potential yield will be, especially if we don't get some rain. It's green enough there, but a bit of disease and stuff has come through as well. Maybe a wee bit of scorch with liquid fertilizer. Can't really see the shadows there. All in all, it's looking clean enough, straight enough, standing up well. But yeah, if there's room for it, I'd still be going for winter wheat as much as possible over spring wheat. I don't think it's going to, given the size of the head, break any yield records. So that's it for a pre-harvest roundup. Thanks for watching. Anticipate that 22nd or 23rd of July we'll start our winter barley harvest, and then it probably will just gradually roll through there with oats and then into winter wheat afterwards, finishing with the spring wheat then I suppose at the end of August. We'll hopefully be back shortly with a update on how harvest is going.